And so here today, our special guest speaker, who has been a unity minister for many, many years, and he is now retired. He is a runner. He is a speaker. I know he's a healer. And something you may not know about him is that he likes to sing in nightclubs, country western songs. So we know he's interested.
We didn't know that. Oh, that's wonderful.
So please welcome with me, he is going to be speaking on Bad Girls of the Bible, Part 2, Reverend Arthur Hammons.
Now, am I on? You can hear everything?
Yes.
Well, let me get this put that on. Okay. It's always okay to start over. Sometimes when we have a conversation with someone and it's just not going exactly like, or we're feeling like we're just not approaching it right, we could say, wait a minute, let me start over. And I've been known to do this a number of times, and I've been also known to leave the room and come back in, you know. So let's start over. I'm warmed up now. Okay, so I wanted to share some information with you about bad girls of the Bible. And our bad girls for today are Lot's wife, who's nameless. She was so bad. And Eve. So now, as I share these ideas with you, I've researched my information and I know what I'm talking about, and you'll see that. But what I'm really talking about is your opportunity to hear and experience something that is new to you. Well, what's new about these stories that you grew up with? Well, I'll tell you what's new. The part of you that has never heard them before, because it doesn't know nothing about them. And so that part of you is like virgin territory, and these seeds could fall on that territory and occupy your present and your future. So that's very promising and very exciting. So when was the last time somebody told you about the Garden of Eden and Eve, or about Lot's wife and how she messed up? In a long time. Good. So since then, you've been growing, unfolding, acquiring experience and knowledge, and you are not the person that heard this last time. This person that you are now is hungry to hear it and eager to take it and run with it. So I asked God at the beginning of the day, which was a long time ago. We've been up all morning together. I said, you inspire the message in the hearts and minds and brains and souls of everyone there. I promise I'll go on and on. But you, Father, deliver the message. So while I go on, and it's just a pleasure for me to do this, I love doing this, I want you to listen to the ideas that jump out at you, because they're not coming from me. I'm just the floor show. They're coming from God's presence within you that says, did you hear that? You could use that. That would be good. That would look good on you. So as you hear those things, you want to find a way to remember them. And there are several things. You could make a note. Because oftentimes we hear things and we want to remember them, but we did 10 or 15 minutes later, it doesn't work. So if you write down a note, you could do that. Or if you used your phone, you could text yourself the information or just put it in a note. But don't listen to the game while it's going on. So you could use your phone for that. That's what it's for. And I'm sure your phones are all turned off. They're not going to ring. But it just because if God gives you this message and you don't hear it, then you delay the process of getting more messages. Well, I told you once, you know. So we want to say, and if you get a message, a hunch, an idea, and it seems like it would bring peace, order, love, power to your life, and you make a note of it, and you dwell on it, hold it in your heart, and think about it, then there'll be more messages where that came from. And if you ignore it, you're shutting off your supply. And maybe it's been a while since that you've shut off your supply and nothing new has come in. Well, maybe today's the day. So hopefully this information will be inspiring to you. Okay, let's talk about Lot's wife. Well, Lot and his wife and their 2 daughters lived in Sodom, which was a sister city to Gomorrah. They were next door to each other like Dallas and Fort Worth. And they were bad places, and they were filled with bad people. These were people that were unevolved. They were not spiritually evolved, and they were very basic, and life for them was very hard, and they just did their best to survive. And they didn't know about kindness and love. They just knew about meanness and getting even and stuff that did not serve them. And so one day, Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom, and 2 men came, and he could see that they were travelers and that they weren't regular inhabitants of the city. And so he visited with them, and he said, well, do you have a place to stay? And they said, we're going to stay in the square. And he said, that's not a good idea. The people here are not friendly. You would not have a good time. Why don't you come to my house? I would really like to give you dinner. I have 2 daughters. That I'm not trying to fix you up or anything, but I have 2 daughters, and my wife, and we have good food, and then you can sleep in safety in our house. So the 2 men said they would do that. So then, while they were having their dinner, this loud knock came on the door, and it was some of the men from Sodom. And they said, we know you have 2 men in there, and we want them. And so Lot said, well, they're busy, and we're all settled in for the night. You go home. And so then he went in, shut the door, and they knocked again, but this time it was really noisy. And they said, we're going to come in, and we're going to get them. And with that, the 2 men pushed Lot out of the way, opened the door, and blinded all of these men so they could not see. I don't know how they got home. And then it was then that Lot knew that these were angels, that they had superpowers. And so he said, so you're here to do something. What? We've come to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but because you are a very nice person and you've been hospitable to us, we're going to spare you. So you need to pack up and leave, because tomorrow is destruction day. And so Lot said, well, that you're going to kill everybody? And they said yes, with fire, and level this place and Gomorrah. And so Lot said, well, surely there's somebody good in town here that needs to live. And they said, well, if you find them, we'll extend this long enough for you to find them. And if you find them, they can leave with you. Well, the city was divided up into hectares, and they went through all the hectares. The hectares were numbered. It's in the book. And they went through all the hectares, and they couldn't find anybody good. So Lot said, okay, we'll pack up. I'll take my wife and my 2 daughters and our cherished belongings. And so they left. They were leaving, and the angels said, now, once you're far enough away, this is all going to be leveled with the fire. So you run for your life. Go as fast as you can. Don't look back, and head for the mountains. And so Lot and his wife left with the daughters. They got away. They could hear all this going on, but God had said, don't look back. But it was just too much temptation for Lot's wife, and she looked back. And that's when she turned into a pillar of salt. And it is not true that Lot said to her, would you look back and see if we're being followed? Not do that, he was. So here's what this means. Now this isn't just what it means in the Bible, but this is what it means in you. Lot, he was not spiritually evolved, but he was on his way. And he had the power to observe and see the good that was coming, or decipher between good and evil. So he saw these two men. He welcomed them because they were good. He welcomed the good into his life and home. He nourished them. He gave them shelter. They proved to be good by blinding all the bad men in Sodom. And then they gave him valuable information. And as he received this valuable information, he was inspired to do something and to move from this place that he lived where he was kind of limited and where he had not evolved to a higher level. So so he did that, but then his wife was living in the past, and she reflected back on the good old days and how it was. And this caused her to crystallize, and salt represents crystallization of thinking, and she was stuck. And she wasn't any fun to take to parties anymore. All she talked about is back there. So I thought we would have a Lot's wife moment. Do you remember the traffic circle on Midway and Rosecrans?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the cotton patch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the May Company and the dining room in the May Company?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember Bullocks
Yeah.
and Buffham's?
Yes.
And do you remember Marston's?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then do you remember Oscars?
Yeah.
Do you remember when you used to come by air to San Diego? You got off in the little airport that
Yes.
was on a street that it's
Yeah.
not on now. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Well, see, yeah, we remember all of that. But let's not go there. Let's not talk about it. Because all that time that we were just now doing what Lot's wife did, looking back, we wasted that we could have been getting more information about our moment and the moments that we're going to be living fully and creatively ahead. So that's what that means. And then the instructions are, run for your life, go fast, don't look back, and go and head for the mountains. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you figure it out, but this means for you, the instructions are, run for your life because your life depends on it. Okay, what? It's Sunday morning. I should be running for my life. You should be moving, living, acting, thinking, praying, motivated, forward, onward, upward, to realize all that you are, because your life depends on it. And if you do this, there will be parking spaces, there will be healings, and there will be stumbling blocks, and there will be challenges, and there will be moments of confusion and moments of, why did I ever volunteer to do this? But those moments will pass and leave behind the gift of knowledge, experience, consciousness, awareness, all those spiritual qualities that we need to implement, acquire, and develop and express in our lives, because that's what it's all about. It's for your life. So you do it for your life. I mean, you go to Vaughn's, you run for your life. And part of the way that you can make your life work better is hold the door open for the next person behind you and watch them just walk right through like it was on automatic, or that's your job every day. And no thank you or anything, but you didn't do it for that. You did it for your life, to put things in order. Put your shopping cart back. Carry your bags with you. If you have extra bags, offer somebody that doesn't have a bag so that they don't have to spend a dime. And that they may like that. That may be nice for them, but it's nicer for you. It's almost being selfish to do the right thing and be there, because you're expressing the ability to think and give and be, and you're also ensuring your future. So lo and behold, oh, forgot my bags. Oh, you've got one extra? Oh, well, thank you very much. Golly, I do this all the time, but I never, you know. So run for your life as if your life depends on it. Then go fast. Move along. Let's pick up the pace here. and express yourself and move along. Be in the movement. The number one killer of people is inertia, lack of movement. It kills more people than smoking cigarettes and bad diet. Is it staying home, sitting on the couch, working on that rut, the path that goes from the couch to the refrigerator back there. We want to be in motion. And you can say, well, it hurts to walk, or I'd just rather do anything else but take a walk. If you would walk just 20 minutes a day and start off small, it is so good for everything you've got left. It's good for your brain, it's good for your heart, it's good for your muscles, it's good for your joints, your arteries, your gallbladder if you still got one, everything. It's just good for everything. And when you do this, you learn things, you see things, and you could plug into a radio or your phone and get news and information so that you come back with something interesting to tell somebody. And when I've already run 5 miles this morning. I run every day. I have to because I eat like a pig. And so I have to. But I never put my feet in the trough. And so what I do is I know, and I do the same. I live in La Jolla, so I do right by beautiful sidewalks overlooking the ocean and pretty homes and very nice people. A lot of people that are foreign, so you hear all these languages and see all these people who walk so slow when you're running, you know. But I know the name of every dog. And then when I see this one real cute dog named Lola, and whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. So I have all this in my little brain, and that keeps me sharp. So I don't know the people's name, and it's not that we're not friendly or anything, but when you say good morning Lola, the dog dad just goes, oh, that's so sweet. So it's just good for me. Everything works. So movement. Run. Now first we're learning run for your life, move, go fast. Don't look back. Now let's talk about looking back. It is important to cherish, honor, and revere all of those that helped you get here. It is, sometimes I'll think of somebody and I'll just devote the next few days to them, just having their memory as they cross my mind, and I hope that having the warm, happy thoughts about them and saying thank you. You know, it's been years since you were on the planet, but thank you for the difference you made in my life. I think that catches up with them. And then if there's a law of circulation, maybe something good will come to me because I sent it out. And so it's good to think back and remember and appreciate, but not go there and live. We live here. So that's the important thing. Don't look back. And what happens is we get in a conversational rut where we find it's convenient because we know what word follows the next one to pull up something that we've said a million times. You know, we don't have to think. We just put it on automatic and move our lips. And so you see people get into this. You know, they talk about the stuff that really did happen and all. It's fascinating, but you've heard it a million times. And sometimes people start talking about operations and illnesses that they've had, and there have been people, and I've seen this happen, who have shown total strangers parts of their body that only doctors and nurses have ever seen before. It's like, oh, in church work, that's called an organ recital. Don't do that. Don't go there. Okay. And then the next bit is to head for the mountains. And as Lot, his wife, and daughters moved away and forward and onward, they went upward. And from the mountains, they could have a better view, a higher view. So this is a great little formula. Run for your life, go fast, don't look back, and head for higher points of view. And so then, as we see this, Lot's wife is a wonderful example to show us not to look back. Now, she didn't really turn into a pillar of salt, but she was crystallized in her thinking, and the rest of the time it was just hearing her chatter away about the good old days in Sodom. So that was that. So that really that's why how she earned the title "Bad Girl" of the Bible. But she really we can profit from her mistakes. Okay, now then our next bad girl is Eve, and again, this information is to inspire you to work on who you are becoming, who you'd like to be, and it's new information on the part of you that is ignorant of this stuff. So go there and say, we've been busy, and we just haven't had a chance to study up on this lately, so this has come into my life now. I didn't know if I was going to get it, but here I am, and it's coming in. This is what they call divine order. So I'm ready. So here, let's look at Eve. Well, we're told in the book of Genesis, in the second chapter, in the second verse, that God created a garden, a beautiful garden, and it was called the Garden of Eden. And in the midst of the garden was a beautiful tree. And I think of like that tree in the movie Rain Tree County. It was so pretty. It was a beautiful tree. And in the morning dew, with the dew on the leaves, it sparkled, and it had beautiful fruit that hung from the tree. And this was the tree of bearing the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And in this garden, I like to think of it as a beautiful, like a rainforest. And God created man out of the dust of the earth, and he named the man Adam. And Adam was his gardener, and he was to garden the garden. And so he made little paths and put rocks together to make an outline on each side. And he, this isn't in the book, and he made a place to sleep, and places to look out over the garden, and places to contemplate. But God noticed that he was busy, and he was a good gardener, so God gave him an assignment, which was to name all of the animals in the garden. So Adam said, well, I'm going to call you Jeffrey, and I'm going to call you Bob. And God said, no, we're thinking that language, what is it? Latin, thank you. We're thinking, go to Latin. So Adam named the animals. And then God noticed that Adam was lonely. So while Adam was asleep, he took a part of his rib and made a woman. And then they were partners, they were lovers, they were friends. They walked together and talked together, and she helped him and he helped her. And they had plenty to eat in the garden. They were vegetarians, of course. And they just had a wonderful time together. But one of the things that they were very aware of was this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God had said, you can have the garden, do whatever you want, enjoy your life, and you're in this womb of pure innocence. And so just enjoy it. And yes, that does mean that Adam and Eve were womb mates.
Oh.
You're in this womb of pure innocence, but don't go near and don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, lest you die. So they thought, well, maybe it's poison or something. But we know not to do that. Well, as they grew and evolved and helped in the garden, a serpent came and spoke to Eve. Now, this was a serpent that didn't slither on the ground yet. And he spoke to Eve and he said, you know that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil will make you like God if you eat it. And she said, well, I was told that if I ate it, I would die. And the serpent said, no, you will be like God. And so she tried as hard as she could to be as good as she could, but finally one day her desire for wisdom took her to the tree where she plucked some of the fruit and ate it. It was delicious. She offered some to Adam, and he ate some, and it was delicious. And then together they finished that piece of fruit, and then lo and behold, they died. But they died as they had been naive, but then they became aware and alive, knowing the difference between good and evil. And then they were aware, they were awake, they were conscious, and they were alive. And instead of being kind of naive, they were aware. And so then, because of their awareness, they realized that they were naked. And so then they took fig leaves and they sewed them together and made aprons. And Adam said to Eve, you know, I think we need to call our insurance agent. And she said, why? And he said, I don't think we have enough coverage. Then they could hear God coming through the garden. So they hid in their little aprons. And then God called them, and they came out of hiding, and God said, oh, you made aprons. And they said, yeah. And he said, why did you do that? And Adam said, well, we don't know, because we just didn't have anything to do, and we'd had watered everything. And Eve said, God, we know the difference now between good and evil. This is emerged in our awareness. And God said, I know you knew that you were naked and that you needed clothes, and that you have become aware. And he said, you tasted of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And for that moment, God was irritated. So he cursed Eve with painful childbirth forever. And then he said to Adam, you have to take care of Eve forever. And that's not exactly called a curse, but in some ways on both sides, his and hers. And so then he said, and you are no longer capable of living in this environment. You're too smart and it's too naive. And so I'm going to give you a promotion. I'm going to send you out into the world. And you can't come back. You must go forward, and you must till the soil and work the earth, just like you worked in here. And so God, in one scripture reference, it says he clothed them in flesh, and in another scripture references, he gave them coats of fur. I can see it like on The Price is Right, you know, whoa, thank you. And then he ushered them to the gate, the east gate, and it opened, and he sent them out into the world, and then it closed, and he put a cherubim. Speaking of Lot's wife, do you remember the majorette on the campus drive-in theater, the neon? Okay, that was kind of like that. A cherubim, an angel, with a flaming sword, so that they could not go back. And then they went forth to multiply the world. Well, okay, for that new part of you that's really perked up and listening, let's see what this means. First of all, the garden was in the east, and the east represents the within. And when we bury people, they are always facing the east for the sunrise and for the light. It's very significant and meaningful. Of course, if you're cremated, you're just kind of all over the place. But when you're in a body, it's to the east. And right now, you're facing east. And that's that away. and we're always facing east to look within. And the great cathedral in London faces east. The Vatican faces east. They're all in the east. And when you do some of your prayer work to get your body and your world in line with what you're about, you might just want to ask your phone on the Campus app which way is east, and then face it, just so that everything you can do is in line. Okay, so then the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was there. It was available. And God didn't want them to partake of it until they were ready. So when you're ready, stuff will come to you. Ideas, information, goals, kick in the pants will come to you to move you along. And when it comes, it could be very delicious, wonderful experience. And it could be that you don't know it's meant for your higher good, and that it's going to be a blessing you'll never forget until you're farther down the road and you can see what it means. But if you could go, okay, this is happening, this is going to be a challenge, this is going to take work. I think I'm going to find more knowledge of good and evil and how God works in the universe and in my life. So I'm just going to say this is going to be delicious. I mean, no matter what. And then setting that course that way, it can really make a difference right on, right early. So man, Adam, represents the masculine, and Eve represents the feminine. And together they were a powerful bunch. He had the strength, she had the sensitivity, and they needed each other. And there was balance there. In you, there is a masculine side of you, and there is a feminine side of you. And there is balance there. You're strong as a male ox when you need to be, and you're as sensitive and capable as any little hummingbird, and you know how pretty all that could be. You've got it all, and you want to keep those things in balance so that when it's time to show your strength, you do it in a way that's accurate and authentic for you. And when it's time to be softer and have a sensitivity about you, then it's time for that, and to express that. So we want to see this whole package. Well, and then God also cursed the serpent that he would slither on the ground, and that was his punishment. And the serpent represents sensual and worldly, the desire for the sensual and worldly knowledge. But it was Eve's devotion to finding inspiration and wisdom that created this opportunity. And that comes from the feminine side. So we want to be curious, we want to seek and have wisdom. We want to know what's going on. And we want to see the big why it's happening to us, to our world. What's up here? And there are times when things are up that we don't have enough information, we just have to wait and see. And that's when we nourish and coat everything with prayer, so that the meaning, the punchline, the end result that is in the works, it's brewing, shows up in our lives. And so if you got something and it's not quite done yet, don't keep opening the oven, but just pray and know that something's working there that's going to increase good for everyone. And so what caused Eve to move the way she did was her desire for wisdom. And it did not get her in trouble. It got her a promotion. She was not kicked out of the garden, but in her little fur coat, she was ushered with, to the gate and given a world. So this is not the fall of man. That's just fake news. This is not the fall of man. This is how your soul started out and moved up. Okay, there's so much more. The serpent said, you will know what God knows. You will be as God. And God said, I have to do this. You have to leave because you have become as one of us. Us? What's this one presence, one power thing? Us means the Father, Mother, God, the presence of all that energy, both male and female, in one loving, warm, caring, strong, wise Father, Mother, God. And so that when you think about it, that's our start. That's where it all started. And then it just keeps getting better. So the tree of the knowledge of the fruit of the good and evil is in the beginning, the very first chapter of Genesis. And in the last part of the Bible, the book of Revelation, there's a tree. And it bears the fruit of life. And it's in the book that man and woman, all souls, are not restricted from going to the tree of life and partaking of the fruit. They're forever. There's no limit. It's all, so the tree in the beginning and then the tree at the end, just couldn't get any better than this. Okay, so I needed to say, that when a person presents, the audience draws information out of them. And I'm really not funny at all. But somebody here has just pushed my funny button this morning. And the idea of interjecting all these little stories and things I've told you is that this is heavy-duty stuff. Run for your life, go fast, don't look back, head for the hills, and you've got a promotion, and you are as God, the balance of male and female, and you have been projected into a world for you to make the most of. That's heavy duty stuff, and so it has to have some little bits of humor within, so that you can take all of that. Okay, with these thoughts in mind, let's bow our heads and close our eyes, and then let's think about these girls and the things they have taught us. And they've moved and inspired a lot of people in a lot of different directions. But the direction that they have moved us today is one of understanding the need to move forward as though our life depends on it, to go for high places where we can draw inspiration and have a broader perspective of what's going on. And then also to know that it is through honoring the masculine side of us and the feminine side of us, and by seeking wisdom and letting wisdom guide us, we can eliminate the confines of a space and a knowledge and an awareness that's too small for us, and earn the promotion into a bigger, more beautiful, more alive workbench for us to show our skills and do our work. Father, for the love and the wisdom and the caring that you are to make all of this happen and to create it just for each one of us, we are so thankful. We can say we're thankful, and we do, but we'll show it the way we live our lives and do what we do. Bless us on our way. We give thanks for this great new information, and we give thanks for being created in your image and likeness. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Amen.